The bar smelled of old whiskey, wet wood, and the kind of trouble that slithered in before anyone noticed. It was Friday night in a small port town where service members drifted in and out like tides, loud, rowdy, proud. Avery slipped through the door unnoticed, just another woman in a black jacket, hair tied back, posture loose, eyes quiet. She kept everything about herself quiet. She hadn't come here for a fight. She had come for observation. It was part of her cover, part of the slow, careful investigation she'd been running for months. The Special Forces patch hidden under her clothes was a secret she carried like a second heartbeat. Tonight, she simply needed to blend in. A group of Marines had claimed the bar's center like a territory. Most were laughing, sharing drinks, tapping glasses loud enough to shatter nerves. But one of them kept looking around. Sergeant Drake Connors, broad shoulders, shaven head, temper always simmering just under the skin. She knew his name long before she walked in. He was one of the men she needed to watch. Avery sat at the far end of the bar, taking slow sips of water. No alcohol, not when she was undercover. Her senses needed to stay sharp, her reactions sharper. The bartender shot her a curious glance. She ignored it, pretending to be lost in the music humming from the jukebox. Connors noticed her eventually. She could feel his stare before she looked up. Predatory. Measuring. Mistaking her silence for weakness. It was always the same mistake. He broke from his group and walked toward her, boots heavy on the scratched wooden floor. "You knew around here?" he asked, leaning in too close. She smelled whiskey on his breath. Cheap whiskey. Dangerous whiskey. "Just passing through," she answered, voice even. "You alone?" He pushed. "Yes." He grinned like that one word gave him permission, like he had won something. "Well, you don't have to be. Come sit with us. I'm fine here." She didn't raise her voice, she didn't need to. His face tightened. Marines weren't used to hearing no, especially from someone they assumed was harmless. And the more harmless they thought she looked, the more dangerous the situation became. "Hey," he said, placing a hand on the bar beside her, blocking her in. "I'm being friendly." "I didn't ask for friendly," she replied. The bar went quieter around them. Not silent, just tuned in. Everyone could sense something shifting. Connor's jaw clenched. He wasn't drunk enough to be stumbling, but he was drunk enough to be reckless. "You got a smart mouth for someone sitting alone." Avery met his eyes with the calmness of someone who had survived far worse than a belligerent Marine. She had disarmed warlords with one hand tied. She had talked down convoys seconds away from firing. She had survived deserts, jungles, betrayal, and blood. But drunk Marines in a bar. That was barely noise. "Walk away," she said softly. It wasn't a request, but he heard it as a challenge. He grabbed her wrist. The bartender froze mid-polish. Chairs shifted. The other Marines half rose from their seats. Avery didn't move, not yet. She let him feel like he had control, just long enough for him to make his second mistake. "Let go," she said. "You think you can tell me what to do?" She exhaled once. Quiet. Controlled. And then, her hand snapped upward, breaking his grip. She twisted his wrist sharply, pivoting off the stool, using his momentum against him. In one fluid motion, she forced him face first into the bar with a thud that made bottles tremble. Gasps erupted. A few curses. A chair toppled over. "What the?" Connors spat through clenched teeth, trying to pull free. "Stop moving," she warned. He didn't, so she pinned his elbow at an angle that promised a break if he pushed. His luck again. The other Marines surged forward, loyalty, adrenaline, and confusion mixing into something dangerous. She could take 3, maybe 4, but a whole group in a cramped bar. Too messy. Too visible. Too risky for someone who needed to stay unknown. "Stand down," a voice barked from the doorway. Everyone froze. Captain Ruiz strode in, uniform crisp even in the dim bar lights. He glanced from his men to Avery, still holding Connors in a lock, and his expression shifted from anger to wary recognition. Not recognition of her face. Recognition of her technique. "Release him," Ruiz said carefully. Avery hesitated for only a moment, then stepped back. Connors stumbled away, clutching his arm, rage burning in his eyes. "What the hell, Captain? She attacked me." Ruiz ignored him. His gaze stayed on Avery. "You're not a civilian." Avery straightened, her posture subtly sharper now. "Just passing through," she repeated. "No," Ruiz said, voice dropping. That hold, those reflexes, that wasn't self-defense class stuff. Who are you? She weighed her options. Lying wouldn't work, he'd seen too much. Running would blow her cover. Telling the truth would complicate things. But sometimes the least damaging move was the boldest. I'm on assignment, she said quietly. Undercover. Special forces. A hush swept through the bar like a sudden wind. Even the jukebox seemed to fade. Connor's anger wavered, replaced by the slow, dawning realization that he hadn't grabbed some helpless woman, he'd grabbed someone who could dismantle him in 3 seconds flat. Ruiz exhaled. Is this about the smuggling investigation? He asked under his breath. Avery didn't answer. She didn't need to. Ruiz nodded once. He understood. But Connors didn't. This is crap, he growled. She assaulted. You touched her first, Ruiz snapped. You're lucky she didn't put you through a wall. But, that's an order, Sergeant. Connor's mouth snapped shut. His pride took a hit big enough to bruise, but his obedience held. Ruiz turned back to Avery. If you need anything, intel, personnel, a safe room, you come to me. Until then, we never met. Avery dipped her head slightly. Agreement. Gratitude. Silence. She stepped past Connors, whose fury had collapsed into something smaller, something almost ashamed. He didn't apologize. Men like him rarely did. But he didn't look her in the eye again. As she reached the door, the bartender whispered, "Ma'am, are you okay?" Avery almost smiled. Almost. I'm always okay, she said. Outside, the night air carried the scent of salt and steel. Her mission wasn't over. Her cover wasn't broken. But the bar would remember her long after she disappeared into the dark, just a quiet woman who turned out to be something far more dangerous. And far less harmless.